Gross motor development takes place cephalocaudally. This area of skills are useful to explore the environment through play and learning, develop social skills, improve cognition, and through all these gross motor activities to build up confidence, self-esteem, and independence. Development of gross motor skills are primarily dependent on tone and posture. Posture is maintained via reciprocal innervation of the performing and opposing muscle groups. These are coordinated via the motor cortex of the brain. When achieving these skills, the initial performance is slow, jerky, and inaccurate. The visual proprioceptive feedback helps to monitor these activities and to master the tasks. Therefore, their execution becomes smooth, continuous, and more organized with age. In the newborn period, we observe mainly primitive reflexes, which are essential for the survival of a newborn. Rooting, sucking, and moro reflex are some of these. However, for the gross motor development, it is essential that these reflexes fade off with age in order to achieve new and useful skills. A newborn is observed to have a mass pattern of movements. The limbs and the whole body moves at once. The body consists of head, trunk, and pelvis for gross motor purposes. When a movement is initiated by one limb, it progresses circularly to other limbs. The head, trunk, and the pelvis move as one. Therefore, the limbs and body do not demonstrate any dissociated movements. Motor development can be studied in three main areas from the age 0 to 9 months. They are the head control, supine, and prone development. When a newborn baby is held in the ventral suspension in the first week of life, there is momentary head control, which is explained as alignment with the trunk for few seconds. In prone position, a newborn keeps his head turned to one side. Around 1 month, he begins to momentarily lift it. Around 6 to 8 weeks, he definitely attempts the chin lifting with weight bearing on the forearms, which are kept abducted. In the supine posture, his neck flexors also develop when he attempts to lift the head off the surface momentarily. And the combination of these flexor and extensor muscles activity in the neck will enable the infant to achieve good head control in upright position by 3 months of age. By this time, an infant gets rid of most of the unwanted primitive reflexes and he achieves strengthening of his trunk muscles. Around 4 months, his trunk and head can move independently from the pelvis, and the limbs move independently from the body too. This will enable the infant to turn from prone or supine to a sideline position and subsequently achieve rolling over from prone to supine and supine to prone. In supine development, around 4 to 6 months, he develops a good head control and an anterior pelvic tilt. Therefore, around 6 to 7 months, he demonstrates foot regard. With the strengthening of his trunk muscles, he can be pulled to a sitting position and now maintain sitting with support with a curved back. This will, by 8 months, develop into a sitting without support with a straight back, and he would independently achieve a sitting position from supine or prone lying. Around 9 months, he will express pivoting while seated, reinforcing a good sitting balance. In prone position, he will thrust his chest up with bearing weight on his forearm and hands, and ultimately tilt his pelvis up and lift from the surface, achieving weight bearing on all four limbs and conferring a crawling position. From 9 months onwards, the gross motor development can be seen in the areas of crawling, standing, and walking. When a toddler lifts up himself in prone development to a crawling position, he will try to mobilize himself around. However, crawling is a variable motor milestone which only 82% of infants achieve, whereas the others may show variations of mobilization that will include bottom shuffling, creeping on abdomen, and some may even progress to walking with support. An infant with good sitting balance is now ready to lean onto a surface to pull to stand around 10 months to 1 year. Subsequently, they will start cruising around with support and standing without support around 1 year. Later on, around 18 months of age, they should have a coordinated gait, and this will even enable them to walk around carrying toys. Strengthening of muscle tone, good posturing with balance and coordination will enable the toddler to explore his world with running and climbing. His movements will become more complex, requiring better coordination to achieve further skills like climbing stairs, jumping, cycling, hopping, and swimming. Kicking a ball and catching a ball are other complex gross motor skills that require good eye-hand coordination. These skills will progress with age, mastering in accuracy and development. Cognition is a higher order developmental attainment. Yet, as all other areas of development, it begins in the early neonatal period and progresses to attain new skills with age. A 6-week-old infant will calm when picked up and explore his environment visually. By 3 months, he will look out or listen to a stimulus for a brief period and lose interest in it subsequently. He will shift attention from one to another object around 3 months, showing preferential interest. Around 4 to 6 months, when he has the motor ability to reach and grasp things, he will with interest explore a toy visually and by mouthing, and if it produces a noise, he will purposefully attempt to repeat these sounds. When he is presented with toys, he understands that banging is a source of sound production and will repetitively attend to this as a game. Around 6 months of age, with the simultaneous development of his eye-hand coordination and language skills, he will begin to playfully explore his own mirror image. Around 9 months to 1 year, he will develop an interest in books and will enjoy looking at pictures. He may also develop an inquiring mind when he learns to pull things to obtain toys and understand how some toys operate. For example, pushing a car on a surface. Object permanence, which develops around the same period, is another important cognitive concept that will support language development. Play is another cognitive milestone which will also have an influence through social development. The most primitive level is when a child shows features of self-relational play where actions are demonstrated on the child himself. This indicates the understanding of self in pretend play. Around 2 years, this will progress to play in relation to dolls. This is known as symbolic play, where the child appropriately demonstrates use of the symbols in pretend play. For example, feeding a doll with a cup. Around 3 years, this may even extend to imaginary and imitative play, where children speak to figures that do not exist in reality and imitate adults doing things. Example, a girl wearing a sari around 3 years of age. At this stage, they will begin to play in groups with peers. Later on, around 4 to 5 years, they are competent in role play and undertakes more complicated tasks based on previous experience. They are more adventurous and explores new environments and takes risks. They learn to share and understand complex group dynamics such as turn taking. Around 2 years, a child is able to sort basic shapes and colors and masters this skill each year. By 3 years, he has good abstract thinking. He will match shapes and colors around 4 years. He would be able to name primary colors. With advanced cognition, his attention improves and he attends to tasks for a longer duration. He undertakes more manipulative functions, starting from unscrewing a lid around 2 years to assembling a simple jigsaw by 3 years. With a good receptive language, child of 2 years is able to identify objects and body parts and may even name them depending on his expressive ability. He will also demonstrate the use of day-to-day objects by 3 years, and around 5 years he may name the use of more than 5 objects. For example, you can drink with the cup. With the advancing cognition, he would obey simple commands and gradually display his ability to understand more complex commands. As early as 3 years, a child demonstrates the achievement of higher cognitive functions such as memory by repeating simple poems and number sequences. Also, they will be able to identify dissimilarities in a group of pictures and make patterns using shapes. Around 4 years, they will master pre-number concepts such as identifying big and small, tall and short, and will be ready to take on basic numeracy skills by 5 years.
children
Which one
do?
is the taller tower?
This.
Very good.
Pink color.
There's a snake here.
Okay.
There's a snake here. Which one is the shortest one? Good. Similarly, they will progress in their pre-writing skills during the same age.